warm welcome to Kootneeti, another strategic chapter today. And we're glad to have Mr. Shashank Patel, who is also the PhD researcher at the Department of East Asian Studies, Faculty of Social Sciences, University of Delhi. He was also the former consultant to the Minister of Development of Northeastern Region, Government of India, for tracing technological investment and advancement in the region. He has also worked on policy matters and was attached to the office of Vice Chairman NEC in New Delhi. Shashank, very good evening and welcome to Court Meeting.
Thank you, Abhyuday.
And we'll begin with important questions first. What is the long festering dispute between South Korea and Japan over wartime labor? And how does
Mhm.
South Korea plan to resolve it?
Abhyuday, it all starts with the aspiration of Japan to become an imperial, a country or the empire like the European countries did in 17th and 18th century in Africa, Asia, Americas, etc. And Japan carved their, own greater East Asia co-prosperity sphere, where they want to form an economic come military bloc of countries in the East and the Southeast Asia against the Western powers, and obviously. But soon it actually, turned that Japan into an aggressor, leading to capture the Korea in 1910, establishing the Japanese imperialist colony there. And Japan used Korean resources, including the human resource, to feed their wars in far lands. And obviously, it crossed the limits of the human values in 1930s when Japanese feudal policies forced Korean people to work in Japanese factories, mines, corporations to fulfill their war needs. And they sent around tens of thousands of women into the military brothels to service the Japanese soldiers as comfort women too. So when Korea freed itself in 1945, it took 20 more years to settle this particular dispute of wartime labor to, just to start the normal diplomatic ties in 1965. And while Japan providing around $800 million at that time in the financial help to Korea, but the atrocities were too brutal that even today Koreans are haunted. And in 2015, when Japan apologized uh, and promised to pay again around $9.5 billion, the amount which the South Korea asked for to fund the victims. But the things changed in a different way in 2018 when the South Korea stock board ordered the two Japanese firms, Mitsubishi Heavy Industries Limited and Nippon Steel, to actually compensate around $3 million again to 15 Koreans or the families it used, as forced labor by liquidizing the local assets of the Japanese companies who are in the Korea. So this particular thing actually flared the tensions up, between the countries so high that the bilateral relations between the South Korea and Japan hits all-time low in the post-colonial phase or the period. So I would say the current resolution is to provide the necessary reparations to the hundreds of the cases pending, seeking justice from the South Korean government or the judiciary. It will be addressed by the foundation now, on which all in which the funds will be collected from the chaebols, what we termed as the corporations in the West, working in the region. Mhm.
And to uphold apology after South Korea settles wartime labor issue by announcing plans. What
Mhm.
role will this policy play in reshaping relation between them and why both governments are trying to reform their relations? Is there anything to do with China, Russia, and North Korea who could be seen as potential allies in current geopolitical scenario?
Mhm. See, the apology was already given in 1995. But yes, just after the announcement by the South Korean Foreign Minister Park Jin, just I think in the today's morning, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida also said that Japan will stand by its previous apology to South Korea over the past aggressions, and it was happened earlier also, right? As I told you, even the Japanese Prime Minister, Foreign Minister Hayashi welcomed this decision, by adding that Japanese companies will do voluntarily donation for the reparations. So, if you are asking me from the on the Japanese side, recalibration in bilateral relations with the South Korea is a must. The current, as you also, you and all people who are related to the international relations, or somehow interested in the international diplomacy or the things, the global politics, the current missile adventures done by the North Korea recently in this year, I'm not taking the other accounts, directly pose threat to the Japan more rather than the South Korea. So some missiles even fell into the Japanese waters this time, and this was the unprecedented thing. So the breaking of the ice is a must need for the Japan to safeguard the Asia Pacific alliances and to boost the trilateral cooperation with USA to counterweight China. But on the Korean side, if I see this particular situation, their foreign minister Park Jin said that we should no longer neglect the deadlock in the bilateral relations and must end the vicious cycle of our national interest. It clearly depicts that South Korea also had to, has to uphold the trilateral partnership for Indo-Pacific agreement, which they agreed in US-Japan ROK trilateral foreign ministerial visit in Phnom Penh in Vietnam 2022. So I would see both countries, and we all know that these countries are the major non-NATO allies of USA and acts as a counterweight to balance China, Russia, and North Korea in the East Asian theater, right? So the uniformity in the future trajectory with all the components and parties into a single basket is a must thing to stable this particular region, East Asia nowadays especially. And this is the most volatile and ready to burst region of the globe currently. It is tickling. Okay. It's just a spark is needed. So any stiffness between the members in the US alliance will leverage the other parties to lure and stay the unresponsive in the war-like situations. So hence I would say that the settlement of this old issue is a firm need for a strengthening of security umbrella they bore, the Japan and South Korea both.
What is the government-backed South Korean Foundation, and how will it
Mhm.
pay compensation to the Korean plaintiffs? How this has been taken by the Korean people?
See, the name is the Foundation for Victims of Forced Mobilization. Okay, this is the official name. Okay, and it is affiliated with the Interior Ministry of the South Korean government. So it will collect voluntary donations from the private sector in Korea and as well as in Japan. Okay, so it also plans to use the foundation which was created in way back 2014 to compensate the other plaintiffs who actually win the pending cases. So government is expected to seek the donation from South Korean companies, the chaebols, and that benefited from the 1965 bilateral treaty, the normalization of the Japan ROK relations at that time. So separately, these particular business communities, and there are very big companies over there, like the steelmaker POSCO, which was benefited from that particular bilateral treaty, under which the Tokyo offered around $500 million in grants to Seoul. So separately, this particular business communities of the two sides have agreed to create a joint future youth fund. This is the again a secondary step which was not in the news nowadays, but I'm telling you exclusively, there is a future youth fund is also created to sponsor the scholarship for the students who are belonging to those families, right? Who are impacted in this particular era. And as of now, around $3 million was ordered by the top court of Korea, and the other 115 plus cases are pending, which will get the benefits from this particular foundation. But you asked about the plaintiffs. What about the sum of the plaintiffs? They will not accept the payment from the government affiliated foundation. This is the problem. And still, the victims and the supporting civic groups have strongly protested the plan. And they are criticizing South Korean government that the Seoul's offer lacks the direct participation by the accused Japanese companies. See, Abhyuday, people to people connect of Japan and Korea is not that harmonious, right? And they still see Japanese as their biggest competitors with a touch of aggression in multiple sectors where the Korean industries are working in, and the same industries where the Japan is working in. So hence, I would say the acceptance from people will take time to adopt the new arrangement, the arrangement of the foundation which was made, but at least it will settle the official relationship as of now.
How
Mhm.
have relations between South Korea and Japan been affected by disagreements over wartime compensation and other long-standing issues? And how has the
Mhm.
President Yoon Suk Yeol expressed his readiness to improve ties with Tokyo?
Uh, See, in 1965, both countries settled the issue and formally started their diplomatic relationship, in which the Japan provided huge financial come technological support to South Korea to create the new infrastructure, advanced factories, stable corporations, and the LOC, the line of credit, to cement the very foundations for the growth which was required by Korea at that time. So Japan, for its part, has maintained that all issues related to its colonial rule of this Korean peninsula, including the issue of compensation for requisitioned Korean workers, were settled completely and finally under the 1965 bilateral agreement. This is the Japanese take. But the Korean governments, as well as the people are more important over there in this particular case, reminded the painful past time to time, intervening in the swift bilateral process of countries. So it is apparently true that the geopolitical expediency pushed both countries close together, in which the role of the current president Yoon is recommendable and praiseworthy. And see, he also suspended its world offered to suspend its World Trade Organization dispute process on the Japan's export control measures too under his leadership. So President Yoon is actually affiliated with the Democratic Party of Korea (DPK), whose nationalist principle is heavily based upon the strongest sense of grievances against the Japan. This is the very catchy thing here. So his decision may negatively impact the policymakers and other heavyweights in the DPK in future. So the latest move, which he decided, could see the President Yoon, to travel Tokyo by the end of particular this month, by March end, for a summit with Kishida, as well as an invitation to the South Korean leader to attend the G7 summit, which is going to happen in Hiroshima in May 2023. But other than the this particular issue, the issue of comfort women who endured the sexual slavery during the Second World War phase, is still a stumbling block between the countries, which needs to be addressed. As this particular arrangement of foundation will not address their need. I'm telling you. Hence, in my opinion, I can say civil organizations and civil representative bodies will not be satisfied with this particular proposed solution, as their final aim is something else, and that aim is to buckle Japan to its foot for sincere apologies only. That's it. So this is the soul of this particular, conditions which are arising, which was arising in the past and currently standing in present.
Thank you, Shashank, for sharing such valuable information and enlightening us with your views. I hope to hear more from you on such upcoming sessions. Thank you and stay tuned to Kootneeti for more.
Thank you, Abhyuday.